everybody. It's good to see you again. And I am going to be talking today about the top secrets on how to get your unruly dog to listen to you. And I want to welcome you to Skills, the human end of dog training. It's going to be a weekly call that I do every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I would love for you guys to come when you can. If you can't come, watch the replay, comment below, and share this video with others. So the first thing that I wanted to share with you guys today is just a personal story of mine. When I was a kid, oh, we got somebody on, but it doesn't, I can't tell who it is. Write your name below in the comments. I would love to know your name, and I would love for you to share what's the age of your dog and breed, and what struggles are you having. Go ahead and write that in the comments below so I can help you, and welcome. We're glad that you're joining us today. So when I first started dog training, I actually started when I was 8 years old, and I'm 44 now, so it's a really long time ago. It was back in the day when traditional dog training was extremely popular. I did almost every traditional dog training method out there. You know, I used to choke collars, I used shock collars, I did a lot of leash popping. One of my dogs even had aggression issues, and my 4-H advisor at the time told me to pop my dog when my dog reacted, and just let Shadow fall on her back. And I remember giving it a shot and doing it, and then I almost was in tears. I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. And in fact, as the years went by, like the more I did the traditional base training, like the more I started not liking dog training, and I started getting angry and yelling more at my dog, and it wasn't pleasant for me. And I went to this show and go. So a show and go basically means, because I was in dog 4-H, you can just show up and train your dog in the ring, which is kind of cool. So I showed up with my dog, Shadow. I had a choke chain on her. And every time, you know, she wasn't right next to me, I was popping the leash. And when I was, you know, done in the ring, the judge there, his name was Drew Delgros, and he ended up being a huge inspiration for me. He took me over on the side and he said, you know what, you don't have to train that way. And I was like, what? Like my eyes just like completely lit up. I was so excited to know that there was another way. And he said, yeah, he's like, check out Don't Shoot the Dog by Karen Pryor. And I did. And that's when I got hooked into reward-based training, positive reinforcement training, and clicker training. And Karen Pryor is the founder of clicker training. So from that day forward, I shifted all of my training methods, and I showed up every week, or close to every week to 4-H. And my advisor told me I was ruining my dog. I wasn't training properly. The clicker was going to ruin everything, and I kept doing it. And in fact, I started going to dog training seminars when I was in high school, and continued on throughout the rest of my life, and really studied under a lot of people that were with those new age methods that back in the day were like, woo, this is weird. Why are you training that way? That doesn't make any sense. And guess what? It works. So every Facebook Live that you're going to see with me is going to be about that human end of dog training, and how you can use training tools to get your dog to listen to you, right? Because I could take the leash and do it for you, but you're going to be really empowered when you're able to do it yourself. So the first thing, let's see, do I have a comment? No, I didn't get a comment from the person that's on here. I would love to know who you are. It would be wonderful. Drop something in the comments below. And I would love to ask you the question of who has a dog that is unruly and does not listen. So if you're watching the replay, definitely comment below. Let me know if you consider your dog unruly or if your dog doesn't listen to you. So we are going to be talking about the secrets into getting our Unruly dog to listen to us. So secret number one is to set your dog up to success. Oh, we got 2 viewers now. And they must be people I don't know because I noticed like I haven't done a lot of Facebook lives recently, but I am going to now. When there are people that are friends of mine, their names come up, but when there are people that are not, it looks like I don't see them. Oh, wait, nope. You know what? I didn't scroll. Ruth said hello. So Ruth is on here. Hi, Ruth. Sorry about that. You are covered with the scroll button. Good to see you. Ruth is like a sister of mine, and I hung out with her all the time when I lived in Utah. And she helped me with my daughter. And she used a lot of positive reinforcement with my daughter as well. So this stuff works on kids too, just so you know. So secret number one is to set your dog up for success. What the heck does that mean? So what I'm trying to say is training in the moment of a stressful behavior doesn't always work because both you and your dog are stressed out. So for example, if you have a dog that's reactive when people come to the house. Oh, hi, Crystal. Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. That's awesome. Crystal, will you comment below and tell us what dog you had when you lived in Georgia? The breed of your dog and any struggles that you're having. And this is Iris. She's got early release today from school. So she will be in the background. How's your homework coming along? Meow, you're going to be a cat instead of a dog. Okay. All right, doggy, do your stuff. Good job. So setting our dog up for success, right? So you're probably going to see some examples today with my daughter, actually, because I could very easily reprimand her when she comes over and I'm on the Facebook Live, or I could positively motivate her. And I want you to really pay attention to that because it makes a difference with setting your dog up for success. So again, like if your dog's reactive at people and you have people over at your house and your dog's in a complete reactive state and you try to do training, then it probably won't work. You probably won't be able to train your dog. Or if your dog pulls really, really, really intensely on the leash and gets super, super distracted outside, you're probably not going to be able to train your dog to walk loosely on the leash outside. Because you're actually putting your dog in an environment where they're overwhelmed. So it's kind of like when you're teaching your child math. If you start by teaching them in Toys R Us with all the toys and how to count money there, that's going to be really hard. It's going to be a lot easier if they learn it at home first or at school in a low distracting environment, and then you generalize it in the harder environment. So that's what I mean by setting your dog up for success. All right. So yes, Crystal, you had a Chihuahua, part Chihuahua and Jack Russell Terrier. It had no issues, but was going to a bathroom a lot in the house. I remember you talking to me about that. But you had a hard time taking them out. So one way that you could set your dog up for success in that situation is you could litter box train your dog. And especially if like it feels inconvenient to take them out all the time, because I know you have a newborn and there was, a lot of stuff going on and that was going on in your life. And having that litter box could alleviate that stress from taking the dog out. But it also allows to set the dog up for success because the dog already wants to go inside. So rather than completely trying to train a whole new behavior, take them outside where they're going to be distracted, you could dumb it down and be like, can you go in the litter box? And then eventually, if you wanted to generalize that outside, then you could have like that pee pad in the litter box and then take it outside and generalize it in the outside area. So you set them up for success by starting indoors, really. And you could keep it indoors forever if you wanted to. So that's an example there. You want to set up a calm and quiet environment so your dog can learn really easily. So for example, like I was working with leash training with a client of mine. Their dog pulled pretty intensely on the leash. So you know what we did? We started in the house. We put a distraction down. And then the owner walked towards the distraction, with their dog on the leash, and when the dog went to pull, he turned around and went the other way, or backed up, one of those two. Walked forward when the leash was loose, backed up when the leash was tense. And now we had this distraction over here that was far away that we have control over it, versus being outside and then being like, I don't know when we're going to run into a distraction, a dog, a person, whatever. And you're kind of like flooding the dog in the middle of all that stress and saying, can you learn now? Right? How hard is that? So it really works well when you break things down. So like if you have a dog that like jumps up when you come home or when people come into the house, actually, most people want to train in the moment. I have a visitor over, let's train our dog. It could actually work better if you did not do that. Can your dog actually not jump when you open the door and no one is outside at all? And then can your dog learn how to not jump when you're the person that comes home or another family member? That's easier than the visitor. And then can you progress towards those harder people, the visitors? The last example that I wanted to share with you on that would be come. So a lot of times we want to, again, train our dog in the mountains off the leash. It's the hardest environment to learn. Start in the house or your backyard. And then you progress to those harder things later. So it's not like you don't get to where you want to be. You still get there. You just don't start in those hard places. So my question for you is, what are some ways that you can set your dog up for success when you're training your dog? And if you're just on here because, you wanted to watch the call and you don't have a dog, you can also write on there what you think an owner could do so that they could set up their dog for success when training their dog. And if you're watching this in the replay, comment below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say so I can help you out. All right, so secret number 2. Training is an opportunity to create a fun relationship with your dog. That one is really, really important, because a lot of times when we look at those traditional methods, we are talking about control, domination, assertiveness, aggressiveness to get our dogs to respond, right? So imagine this. Imagine Iris had come over in the middle of the call and I started yelling at her. My daughter is very assertive. So within seconds, we probably would have gotten in a fight on the Facebook Live, right? So when you use those types of responses, I love you, honey.
I'm all done. You get to do Roblox.
Oh, you did your reading? You got to do your reading? You got to do your math?
I did all
And you studied your vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
The reading was for 15 minutes. I haven't even been on the call for 15 minutes.
I read quickly.
Okay, Iris, what book did you read? Show me. Bring it over. What did you read? Okay, so this is the first Facebook Live I've done when my daughter's been home from school, and I actually totally forgot that today was early release day. Okay, so you read this book? What pages did you read?
That one, that one, that one, that one, and that one.
All right, you read all that when I was on the call? How come I didn't hear the timer go off? Probably because I was absorbed. Did you set the timer for 15 minutes? Okay, well, I don't understand how you did all that in less than 15 minutes. That doesn't make sense. So I think you need to do more reading, okay?
Do I have to?
And then you can do your roadblocks. Make sure you did everything on the list and that you did it thoroughly and you're following through, because you also had to pack your lunch. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
I
Cool.
tricked you, Mom. I didn't need.
Yeah, I kind of thought so.
I just don't like reading.
Yeah.
Tricked you.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so like I said, I figured that we would probably get some good examples of this today. While like we were on the call, right? So training is an opportunity to create a fun relationship with your dog. That's secret number 2, right? So you can actually destroy your relationship with your dog or your children psychologically, right? If we do a continuous amount of yelling, berating, hitting, all of those things, and not, making it fun. So like when I had my first dog, Heather, she did not come very well when I called her. And when she didn't come, I got really mad and I actually yelled at her. And as a result of that, she actually started coming less. And she bit me once when I was a kid, actually. So it's something that you want to kind of keep in mind. And again, like as things happen with my daughter, I don't want you to see that as a distraction. I want you to see that as a learning experience for how these secrets work for people too, because it's just learning psychology. It's the same with a person as it is with a dog. The theory is the same. It is obviously a little different because people know English. So let's see. Crystal said the people that she is staying with have a sweetheart rescue, a Beagle Fox Terrier, I believe. She is so nice and she's showing food aggression. Thank you for sharing that with me. So as we're going through the secrets, we can talk about how we can work through that problem. So an example of making dog training fun would be when I had Shadow. I decided to learn from my mistakes and I celebrated when she came to me. I made a lot of fun, I rewarded it, and then I got a dog that came really well. So my question is, has anyone yelled at their dog? And I'm going to be surprised if not everyone says yes to that, because I think at some point it's not about doing this stuff perfectly. It's about just having awareness and trying to make it as fun as best we can, right? Eventually, we might yell, and that's normal. But if that's our common go-to, then we know that we could actually digress our training progress. So, Crystal, when you think about the resource guarding here, do the owners yell at their dog when the dog resource guards? Or do they try to make it fun to get the dog to leave it or back up from the object? So that's something that you want to think about. So some tips on how to make training fun so your dog is motivated to listen to you. You want to use yummy treats that your dog loves. And if you already do this, switch treats around or use a more variety of treats so that the rewards become more novel. So great. So Crystal actually said some stuff, and Ruth here. So Ruth says, I've definitely yelled at Forrest, a new cat. Yep, I hear you. That's normal. We've all been there. And hopefully, like through this call, it'll kind of help you think of other things that you can do in the future to help kind of rewire your neural pathway and that. So Crystal says, no, they don't yell. Good. That's wonderful. They talk calmly, saying, no one wants your food, like reassurance. Oh, okay. Okay. So at that point, the dog probably doesn't want the person around the object. So I would say, take that away. Don't do that. and give the reassurance when the dog backs away from the object. So when the dog actually leaves the object alone or drops it or gives it up, that's when they want to give the attention and give a high value treat for that. And generally when we're working on resource guarding, just like with secret number 1, we need to set the dog up for success. So if the dog guards pig ears more strongly than a tennis ball, then you wouldn't start with the pig ears because you're not setting the dog up for success. You would start with the tennis ball. Or you might even start with objects that your dog doesn't guard at all, which is usually what I do. A candlestick or, cell phone or something that your dog doesn't guard at all. And then teach the meaning of word, leave it, and then gradually move your way up the hierarchy to things that they guard a little bit, to things that they guard moderately, to things that they guard highly. So it takes quite a few months to really train that behavior out. So again, we talked about using yummy treats, right? Different ways that we can motivate our dog to make it fun. So my question is to you, what treats do you use when you train your dog? Or cat. So Ruth has a cat, right? And these same things apply to all animals, really. So Ruth, what kind of treats do you give to your cat? And Crystal, what kind of treats do they give to their dog? Your friends. Like we think it's a Beagle Fox Terrier. I don't know. Tell me the dog's name and then I can use his name and we can talk a little bit better about that. And we can determine, are those treats good to use for when the dog gives up something when they're resource guarding? Okay, because that motivation's got to be pretty high for a dog to give up something that they really want to keep. So then another thing to create dog training to be fun is to use a happy and calm voice. So I'm wondering, who's used a happy and calm voice when they've been training their animals, their dog or their cat? Comment below. I would love to hear if you guys have done that. I know I definitely have at times. And another thing is to mix things up. If you're training multiple commands, alternating between the commands so that your dog or cat is likely to be more attentive. Right? I mean, you could honestly do that with a parrot too. I used to train raptors, parrots, parent-shaped porcupines, any animal. Really, the rules are the same. Yes, my dear.
Am I allowed to read for 7 minutes?
Yes, you may. And do you remember what we talked about during the call?
No.
We talked about for you to do your stuff and to focus without coming over here as best that you can.
Okay.
Yeah. So mixing things up. If I'm training leash walking, I could walk in one direction, or I could be like, oh, I'm gonna walk this way, and I'm gonna walk this way, and I'm gonna walk this way, and I'm gonna go over here, and I'm gonna go over there, and I'm gonna go this way, and that way, right? I can mix it up and make it fun. Iris, you wanna be a dog for a minute?
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna mix it up for Iris, because she is wanting some attention, right? Okay, so if you are my dog, you're gonna walk with me, okay? Come on, Iris. Over here. Over here. Good job. Okay, walk with me. Okay, now we're gonna go this way. Now we're gonna go this way. Okay, can you sit? Now can you down? Can you do a target? Good job. Target again. Oh, good job. Sit and target. Good. Now sit and stay. All done. Good job. Okay, doggy. Go finish up your tasks.
I get to do Roblox because I'm not done.
Did you pack your lunch?
Yep.
Okay, let me see your list. Make sure you got everything done. Okay, so Iris is getting a reward for doing her list. So you did your multiplication, you practiced your vocabulary, you did your reading, you packed your lunch, you got your glasses on. Okay, and you said you did reading for 7 minutes. That's cool, okay? Did you have fun reading? Good job. Okay, go do your Roblox. Okay, so That's making it fun, right? So I could be over here on the call, and I could be yelling at her. You need to do your multiplication. Iris, get over there, do that. I've seen people do that with their kids when they're on call sometimes. The kids like interrupt and they're supposed to be doing stuff. And then I think that's normal. I mean, for us to go to that go-to with yelling. Um, but I want you to see that you don't have to do that. And you actually can get a better compliance if you don't. Um, so mixing things up, making it fun, alternating things. So for instance, it could look something like this even, like for a kid. She could read a page and then she could do multiplication. She could read another page and then she could do multiplication, right? So that demonstration I just showed you with the dog can also help just create you to be more attentive and to have a good time. So how can you mix things up when you are training your dog or cat or your animal? We would love to hear what you have to say. Oh, yes. Okay, so Ruth says her cats like crunchy, usual treats, Friskies. Party mix is the favorite. Yay, Friskies. We also sometimes use other foods. Okay, cool. I would love for you to write what other foods there are because other people might be watching this that have cats and they may want to train their cats. And I bet you they would love to hear what some of those other options are. Foxy. Okay, so Foxy, so Crystal's friend's dog, was rescued from a bad place, 14 others, with 14 others. Oh, wow. So probably in an animal hoarding situation. That's horrible. So we think she had to protect her food to eat. So that's really good that you can see that there's a reason because dogs don't usually just act a certain way because they're trying to be bad or mean. There's usually a reason behind it. And if we can understand that and have compassion, then it's easier for us to use positive reinforcement or reward-based training. There's no biting, but a growl right after she goes and checks the food, then comes over happily. They have different options that come in the bark box sheet orders. Okay, so if you know what some of those options are in the bark box, let me know, because I can let you know if those are good rewards to use when you're trying to train to leave it with those lower valued objects and then progressing to the higher ones. And honestly, again, you'd probably start with objects that your dog doesn't guard at all first. So then we can mix in some playtime while you're training your dog. Because Iris is home, she's obviously on my mind a lot, and I think it helps for us to have those human examples. So a lot of times when I pick her up from school, we don't do homework first, but she chose to do that today. So she's got all the learning at school. She comes home, she does some playtime, and then she does her homework. And sometimes even while we're doing the homework, if I do it with her, we actually add in play. I'll pretend I'm a teacher. Or I'll make silly noises, or we'll sing, or we'll do rhymes. We'll make up stuff to help her memorize things, or tell stories. So in the dog training world, it's kind of the same thing. You're asking your dog to stay, but when you release the stay, then you might play with your dog. Or then you might then ask your dog to target, and then target is touching their muzzle to your hand, which I think you saw Iris do. She is my dog demo very often, and she's a good one. So target, I can move my dog around that way. And then after I ask the dog to target, we could play tug. I could ask my dog to sit, and I could throw the ball. Then I could ask my dog to down. I could throw the ball again. I could ask him to sit, and then do a target, and then do some other form of play, and just intermix a lot of the play in there. So let's see. Ooh, we got so many comments. I love that you guys are participating. Okay, other training foods. Deli meat. Ooh, that's great. And guys, some of you guys may have like dogs that don't like cats or cats that are scared of the dogs. You can use food to help change that association. And some cats are more food motivated than others, but you could try deli meat. Turkey looks like that's worth trying too. Her cat comes down to see if the sandwiches are being made. That's awesome. I love it. Okay, so Crystal says chicken meatballs from Milo's Kitchen. Okay, that sounds like those are pretty high valued. So I would say that would probably be a really good thing to use when you're dealing with a resource guarder. You want to make sure when they give up the object that they get about, 10, anywhere, maybe not 10, maybe 5 to 10 pieces of the high valued treat, and you throw them on the ground. Super high. Yeah, you gave up the purse, you got $1,000. You got to make it worth their while. For the foster cats, Ruth has used meat flavored baby foods. Ooh, that's cool. These are things that you could use with dogs too, actually. But it goes bad pretty quickly, and I don't break it out unless we're really doing a big training session. Yeah, that makes sense. I've used a lot of the squeeze tube baby foods when I train with dogs, and then I put them back in the fridge if we didn't use it all. So I'm wondering, has anyone mixed in play while they're training their pets? Their dog or their cat? And the last thing, and comment below on that, and then the last thing on, making that training being fun, which is the secret number 2, is to start and end your training sessions on a positive note. I think a lot of us, that makes sense, but a lot of us don't do it. If I was dealing with a resource guarder, I would start the training session with an object that they are unlikely to guard. And then if we got to a moderate level of an object, then I might end with the easy one, or I would make sure that I end it when they've left that moderate object really well and did a really good leave it command. So that dog feels really confident at the beginning of the session and at the end. I noticed I have to keep scrolling the comments to see when people are writing, which I don't remember having to do that last time. So I'm wondering why that is. I don't know. I will figure that out at some point. Ruth says for us, a lot of cat training is play oriented, or redirection uses a lot of play. Yeah, and you know what? You can use play in replace of treats for a reward, which I think that's what you're saying there. You probably do that a lot, Ruth. Is that true? I would love to know. Have you thought about ending or starting your training sessions on a positive note? So Iris's reading session ended on a positive note. She liked the book that she read, and she got rewarded with roadblocks. She used to hate reading. She used to scream and cry only when she would read just a few words. And now she can read entire pages. And that was not created with me yelling and reprimanding her. That was me breaking it down and using these same techniques. Okay, so Ruth says that they don't use play as much, but we really should. Okay, well, it's an option. I mean, you don't have to. You can use any rewards, right? But you do mix in the play when you're training. That's cool. And, oh yeah, so Crystal said that she did, with Zeus, the Chihuahua Jack Russell, she did a lot of play. I got him to learn fetch, but actually start to bring the ball to me. I didn't use treats. I just used positive enthusiasm. So the playing and the positivity and the calm, happy voice is what ended up being rewarding. And I really want you guys to get that, because yeah, food works, but that's not the only thing that serves as a reward. And it doesn't have to be always what you're using for as a reward to make it fun. So secret number 3, pay attention and reward your dog's good behavior. Oh my God. I mean, I think this is kind of a no-brainer, but yet most people don't do it because it's a no-brainer. And the reason why is because we're wired to focus on what we don't like, right? So, for instance, when I'm done with this call, I could do one or two things with Iris. I could point out all the time she interrupted me and reprimand her for that and criticize her for it. Or I could tell her all the times that she let me be on the call and allowed me to talk and bring that up and reward that. And that's probably what I'm going to do. We'll probably will have a conversation on, remember, next time to not interrupt me during the call because it kind of gets me off track. But at the same time, to me, I think it serves in a way because you guys learn something from it. And it also helps you see that I'm human as well. Like everything's not going to be perfect and polished on my end, and dog training isn't perfect and polished. It's up and down. Or just animal training in general. So paying attention to that good behavior is something as simple as rewarding the dog for not guarding the object. So if I had the low valued or the object that the dog wasn't going to guard around and the dog left it, I would reward that instead of giving a whole bunch of reassurance when the dog is guarding. Because that reassurance is probably not perceived as reassurance for the dog, because when the dog's guarding, he probably is saying, I don't want you there. So by you staying there, it's actually reinforcing the growling. And by talking to him, it's reinforcing the growling. So if a dog gets a sock and I chase him to get the sock back, I am reinforcing grabbing the sock. Oh, good, you played a chase me game with me. This is so much fun. If the dog jumps on me and I say no off, technically I've probably reinforced that because the dog wanted attention. If my daughter comes up during the call and I give her tons of attention for that, which I kind of did a little, but let's say I overly did it and we didn't talk at the end of the call and give her reinforcement for the time she didn't interrupt me, I could cause her to interrupt me more. But definitely if I was yelling at her and reprimanding her every time she came to interrupt me, I would probably get more interruptions. If I gave her a lot of attention for not coming over during the call, then I can get more of that. So for instance, I'll do an example right now. So I can go in the other room and I can say, Iris, good job playing Roblox and allowing me to be on the call. Thank you so much. So that's something that most of us don't do. Our dogs are not jumping on us and we want them to stop jumping. We don't give attention for the not jumping. You need to give attention for the not jumping. If the dog's around an object and isn't guarding for some reason, give the dog a ton of attention then. If the dog is around the sock and isn't getting the sock in the mouth, give the dog attention then. So somebody comes over, the dog's not jumping, give the attention then. Take the attention away when the jumping happens, give more attention for the not jumping. I'm on a Facebook call, my dog's over here, hypothetically. I could give my dog a whole bunch of attention for lying down by me, or I could wait to give the attention for when they jump on me. If I wait till they jump on me, then I'm going to get more jumping. So I will give more attention for not jumping and for lying down and being really boring. And then I'll get more of that because whatever you reward will increase in frequency. So I wanted you guys to name a time that you gave your pet attention for a behavior that you did not like. And maybe you even noticed when you did that it increased. Ooh, I'm going to share an example. So when I had Shadow was barking, and I taught her the meaning of quiet. But what I did is she would bark, and I would say quiet, and then as soon as she stopped barking, I would give her a treat. So then she started associating barking with quiet treats. So then she would bark for me to say quiet to get a treat. So I gave attention to the behavior that I did not like in that example. Okay, so let's see. Oh yeah, so Crystal said she gave attention for the pooping and peeing in the house. Oh my God, that's such a common one. There's so many people that do that, and so you are not alone in that. There's nothing wrong with you. So you change that by being very neutral when there's an accident in the house, and then giving a lot of attention for when they go in the litter box or outside. Okay. So, sorry, I flipped too far ahead of my slides here. It's not moving properly. So we talked about that. Remember, whatever we reward increases in frequency. So what good behaviors can you reward? So as you're thinking about the things that you want to change with you and your dog or your pet or your cat, what good behaviors can you reward? Would love for you guys to comment below, and I'm going to sip a drink here. So Iris gets rewarded with money for reading. And it's definitely increased her frequency of reading and her ability to enjoy reading. She also gets rewarded by reading books that she likes and talking about them and learning stuff. I let her pick them out. So that's in the human realm, but remember, it's the same thing in the dog realm. So comment below on what good behaviors you can reward, even if you're watching the replay. I would love for you to comment. And you can give your dog attention in many ways for doing something good. So I think we've already kind of realized that because you guys have mentioned that. Ruth answered a question. We got a lot of positive reinforcement when the cat scratches appropriate places to the point that I think the cat will scratch when she wants attention. Oh, wonderful. So you gave a whole bunch of attention to scratching on the, the cat tower or whatever, location was okay. And so then the cat did more of that. Can you tell me what reward you used? So when you gave attention, what type of attention was it? Was it treats, praise, petting? Would love to hear on that. And Foxy gets rewarded for going to the bathroom outside. Nice job. That's wonderful. Great. So some different things that we can use to reward: praise, treats, talking, eye contact, playing, and a food-oriented toy like a bone, a pig ear, a Kong, thing like that, are all ways that you can reward your dog for doing something good. So if I want my dog to lie down while I'm on a Facebook Live or with a client or working during the day, I could give my dog a Kong with something that's tasty. The dog's getting rewarded for lying down and not bothering me and is getting attention for the good behavior. And it's not even coming from me the whole time. So that's a really good example. And then making sure that once they're done with that Kong, that they still do get that periodic attention while I'm still working for being quiet and good. Okay, so the reward that Ruth used, every time we hear Kitty scratching the post, we would say, "Oh, good kitty. Yes, good kitty." I will also, sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. I will also often walk over and give a head scratch. Okay, so scratching the head and praise. Wonderful. Absolutely. And you know what? I did not write that one down. Petting obviously is a good reinforcer as well. And if you guys are familiar with Linda Tellington Jones, if not, you might want to look her up. She does T-Touch. It's a great thing to work on when a dog is stressed out. And probably could serve the resource guarder dog as well, because I'm forgetting. So Foxy is, I believe, your friend's dog, right? Crystal, did I get that right? Correct me if I didn't. So Foxy would be the one that you could do some T-touch with or petting. Um, and you could use that to reinforce calmness in the body when there is no guarded object around. And then you're actually reinforcing the emotion of calm. And I've used petting a lot when I'm dealing with dogs that have aggression problems, to kind of get the dog into a meditative state and reinforce their nervous system to be more relaxed. Um, okay, and oh, Crystal's reward that she used was giving, oh, sorry, getting a treat for going outside. I think I might have already said that. And Foxy is the friend's dog here. Okay, perfect. I got that right. Okay, so then the last secret, number 4, we kind of touched base on it a little bit, but it is one that I really want you guys to think about. Pain is an excellent motivator, and it comes with a huge psychological price. So, hypothetically, now, again, this is hypothetically, this is not what's happening in my life. If Iris came over here and I hit her, then she would learn if I interrupt mom on a Facebook Live, I'm going to get hit. Okay, so then she would probably interrupt me less, maybe. Or she could actually, with my child, probably not. Some kids might. My child would hit me back. I guarantee you that. And we could have a huge hitting fest on the call, and I would probably get children's services like called on me, right? Since it would be a Facebook Live. So we'll add a little bit of dramatic humor in here. If the kid does choose to not interrupt as often because they're afraid of the pain of getting hit, how does that affect the child psychologically? And I would love for you guys to comment on that. Think about it. What emotions would the kid feel? And does it improve or destroy the trust bond between the parent and the child? And some of us have had experiences as kids where we've experienced this and it has somewhat destroyed our trust bond with our parents. And the same risk happens with our pets. So if we use pain as a motivator, we are actually increasing the chance that aggression and fear problems will develop in the future, if not immediately. And Crystal has said, yeah, it destroys the trust bond. Absolutely. So if you don't have trust, it is harder to get the dog to comply. And if you watch any trainer out there that does traditional based methods, they'll use the shock collar, the prong collar, the spray collar, whatever. There's a lot of different tools that you can use to use pain as a motivator. Choke collars, shock collars, prong collars, spray bottles, hitting, yelling, shaking. The alpha roll is a really common one. Hold the dog down. And then not let them get up. Okay, and Crystal says, the child will associate any honest mistake with the fear of being themselves or expressing anything. Yeah, exactly. So they're going to withhold a lot of expression. A child will be less likely to come to their parents when they feel unsafe because they don't feel that safety with their parents. And a dog's going to do the same thing. They just won't be able to tell you in English and you'll see it differently. I've seen many videos of trainers that have used pain as a motivator and the dog bit them, or the dog's growling at them, or the dog is showing a whole bunch of fear signs and isn't biting, but because I know how to read dog behavior, I can tell, or the dog is in what's called learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is when the body just freezes and the animal doesn't move or the human doesn't move at all. They're so scared about messing up. They are just so scared about messing up, they do nothing. In fact, I had a dog that was in my classes years ago that was shock collar trained with the previous owner, and then And I think it was at a pretty high abusive state. The new owner adopted him, and was doing positive reinforcement, and there would be times in class where the dog like did nothing. It was just so scared it was going to mess up. So people who have gone through trauma, from extensive abuse, it doesn't always have to be physical. It can just be constantly being criticized. Can get in these responses where their body freezes and they can't respond in that moment. They can't answer a question. They have trouble learning in certain scenarios because for whatever reason, something in the outside environment triggered that past response. So it's the same thing with the dogs as well. So it's really important that you stay away from those types of methods, especially if you already have aggression or fear problems. If you don't, you still want to because you don't want to develop those. So I have a question for you guys. What are some tools or methods in dog training that use pain as a motivator that you guys are aware of? I listed a few, but there's a lot more out there than that. I would love for you to share with them in the comments and here below. And I really do want to state, if you have used some of these, don't fret. Trust can be regained. Okay? No one is perfect. I don't think there's a single person out there that's going to say they never yelled at their dog or they've never done something. They had a bad day and they may have slapped their dog once and maybe that was the only time it happened their entire life, or there was a few times it's happened, in a month, whatever. So you can regain that trust. And you do that by just changing your methods from now on forward as best that you can. So for instance, Shadow, my second dog, I used choke collars on her. I used shock collars on her. And then I told you that I went to the show and go and met Drew. Drew, by the way, was a dolphin trainer at SeaWorld. In Ohio, we had SeaWorld. So if you imagine trying to train a killer whale or a dolphin with electronic shock, you're going to die, right? I don't think they're going to just sit there and freeze. They're going to fight back. So he was an awesome person to learn from. So then when I learned about him, I changed everything. So I still had Shadow. I still had she still had the shock in her brain and her mind and the choke collars. But when I left those methods and then purely focused on only positivity with her, it changed our bond and we got a lot closer. And so you can do this at any time, and that please don't sit there and feel guilty and make yourself feel bad or wrong. Just have compassion. We are human. We're all doing the best that we can. And if we get awareness, we can choose differently when we're ready. Okay, so here are some pain-based things that some other people have listed. So Crystal says shock collars, smacking on the rump, or charging at the dog. Oh, charging at the dog and smacking on the rump. Yeah, very, very common. Absolutely. Vibrational collar. Thank you. Because if the vibration is associated with shock, then the vibration in itself would be a predictor of pain. So a lot of people say, well, that when they advertise the shock collars, they'll call it static to make it sound better, right? Which is shock. And then they'll say, well, it has a beeping noise and it has a vibration. So the dog has all these warning signals. Bullshit. That is still the same thing. The vibration and the noise has been associated with the shock. So when the dog hears the vibration or feels the vibration or hears the beep, they have the same trauma response that they do when they feel the shock. It's not any different in the body. So you may feel better about it because your dog's not getting shocked, but your dog doesn't. Now, I've used vibration collars with deaf dogs for recall training because they can't hear, but you do it differently. You start at a very low vibration, just a vibration, not the shock. Just it's not shocking the dog. It's just the collar's vibrating, and you associate it with food. You associate it with something positive for a really short time at a really low level. And then you use that to be the come command. So like with the vibrational collars, because it's a lower significant of discomfort, some dogs don't perceive it as discomfort at all, but if they do, you can change it over to making it be positive by pairing it with food and stuff. Or you can change it over by making it be negative by pairing it with shock. So it's kind of an interesting thing to keep in mind. Now, some dogs are just going to be scared of the vibration no matter what. And hopefully you're not dealing with a deaf dog that's with that. But if that ended up being the case, then it's probably not worth trying to rewire and pair it with food and all that stuff, because if the dog doesn't like it that much, it's best to just do it a different way. Crystal says, lock up in a cage and ignoring the dog. Okay, so that I definitely would agree that could be motivating through some pain, because the dog is going to be could feel discomfort. And I want to make sure that people don't get confused with taking a break. You're allowed to take breaks. You can create the cage to be positive. You can put your dog in there and give them something fun to do and use that to take a break for self-care. And it's important that you do the self-care. And if you're throwing your dog in the cage and you're grabbing them in the cage and yanking them in there and closing the door pretty intensely and putting them in there, that is definitely not something I would ever recommend. You are instilling fear and anger in the system and causing stress, which then again, just like when you think of the human-child relationship, it affects the dogs the same way. Okay. So the most common motivators that create enjoyment are treats, praise, petting, and toys, which I think we kind of talked about. So those are the things that you want to use when you're training. And if you can think of, something else on there, play, obviously, but that kind of goes with toys. That's completely cool as well. And if you do have another idea, I would love for you to share on there. What positive motivators have you used with your dog, cat, or pet? Please comment below. And the other question I would like to ask you is, what secret did you like the best? And how will you incorporate this in your everyday dog training? So if you take a moment with reflecting on this question, it'll create more long-lasting change. And if you type it in the comments, it'll create more long-lasting change. Or if you write it down on a piece of paper, it'll create more long-lasting change, because your brain is physically putting it out in the universe, but also just, when you're writing, it is ingraining it in your memory more than if you're just thinking about it. So I would invite you to take the time to write, what secret did you like the best and how will you incorporate it in your everyday dog training? And let me see if anybody wrote anything else. So Crystal says, ignoring the dog later on when he comes up for attention. So if the dog is pawing you, biting you, or jumping on you for attention, I would say ignoring is fine, and then I would just give attention when they're sitting or in a down. But you want to do it in a way where, you're not yelling at the dog or hitting them or spraying them. You're just turning your back and taking your eye contact away. Is a pretty positive way to train. Most encouragement of good behavior treats pets. Yes, exactly. Telling the dog they're good. Absolutely. Yes. Ruth says, I really needed the reminder for not giving attention to the negative behaviors. Yeah, I think we all do. I think that's an ongoing process, because our brains are wired for survival in the cavemen. So we focus on what could go wrong to keep us safe. I don't want to get killed. I need to get food. So it does take a lot of effort to change our minds to focusing on what is going well in our lives, and that is including with our pets and giving attention for those things. Awesome. Nice job, guys. This has been wonderful. I loved having you on here. How fun. How fun. Thank you for coming. Okay, so if you are, here and you need to relearn some of this stuff, watch the replay. If you are watching the replay, comment below. And everyone, definitely share this video with others so you can inspire other people about all of these awesome secrets. And the last question I wanted to ask you is, what other topics would you like to see covered in a Facebook Live? Please comment below. Because right now I am planning on doing a Facebook Live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. I'm going to call it Dog Skills, the human end of dog training. And we are really going to focus on what you can do yourself so that you're empowering yourself to train your dog. And I also want to talk about, you might be a great fit for our Dream Dog program. So in this program, you will feel much peace and confidence because your puppy will learn, or your dog, to reliably listen to basic commands. You'll also get your dog to walk loosely on the leash and listen well off the leash too. So if you like to, go outdoors a lot and go on walks, or if you like to take your dog off the leash at dog parks or up in the mountains, if you're in Utah, this program could be wonderful for you. And we can help you no matter where you live. In fact, I actually recently helped a client that lived in Florida. My cousin's friend lived down there. And the reason why I can help you no matter where you live is because all you need is the internet, a smartphone, a computer, or a tablet. And you can work with me through private online sessions with me through Zoom, which is absolutely wonderful. And it works. The reason why it works is because your dog will learn quickly, because your dog is going to immediately listen to you instead of me. I won't be there getting your dog into training mode. I also won't be there distracting your dog. And your dog could also be overly excited to see me, and then we got to work on calming him down. But a lot of times the dogs can get into training mode, and instead I don't really see what's going on. But when we do it through Zoom, I get to see how things really are in your home, and I get to immediately teach you what to do to empower you to get your dog to listen. Obviously, through Zoom I can do a lot of screen sharing a lot easier. So I would do live demonstrations, and then I'll show you videos on how to train, and then I get to watch you immediately training your dog right there and getting your dog to respond. You will also be accountable and doing your homework by submitting videos to me so I can see how well you're generalizing the training when I'm not even there. And that is really, really wonderful because we can screen share those videos and your learning is enhanced because we can give you feedback while you're watching yourself doing the training rather than you trying to juggle the leash, the clicker, being outside, all these distractions, and trying to learn at the same time. It's really, really wonderful. And I've had time and time again of people really excelling in the private Zoom training and have absolutely loved it and have said that it's been more valuable than the in-person training. So to book a free phone chat with me, you're going to go to the link in the comments. It is pinned at the top. I will double check and make sure that it's on there when I get off the call, but I did pin it. And then if you want additional help or know about our other services, there's another link that is pinned in the comments below for that as well. So thank you so much for being here with me today. And again, if you like this video, remember to share it with others. And remember, you can be with me every single week at 2 o'clock on Wednesday. Bye-bye.